So my wife saw the Draft Dudes video intro for the first time. Yeah. She's like,
what's she been doing? She hasn't been watching the show?
No. Yeah, dude. It's like that Bill Burr bit. You know, she's over me at this point in terms of content.
Right.
It's not for her. She doesn't care.
Are you sure you're at the risk of spoiling content later in the week? You sure you're naming the right person?
It's not a whole lot to say in response to that, Chris.
He is sure, because that is the proper bit that he's referring to. Hi, Sam.
That was the Wednesday edition of the show, correct? That was the...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a little sidetracked.
Dolphins, Chris, I did. Yes, I did. Watched both games today.
I don't have the chat open. Here we go. Assistant GM Sam, Dolphins Craze. Alex, what's up?
Mike,
what's up?
Yes.
Oh, no.
That is true.
We're not doing this tonight.
There we go.
We're not.
There it is.
We are not.
The only AFC East team properly named after the right animal.
All right,
That's
Joe.
Terrific.
We answered
Thomas,
this.
I want to know where you are since it's good morning.
He's probably in
Yeah, see, shut it down, Chris.
No, I'm just trying to think. China's 12 hours ahead.
Wait, am I answering this now or
yes? Because we answered it on Thursday's show.
Let's start with that in the show. We got a little bit of a late start. Let's roll.
All right, whatever, man.
Oh,
need time to think about
my
my
answer, to mess around.
All right.
No, it's... What's better than this? Guys being dudes here on the Draft Dudes live stream presented by
Mighty Swell.
Kyle, Chris, Grapefruit, Mighty Swell. Good evening.
Good evening. Good afternoon.
Kyle,
Good morning.
Were you pointing down to me to wave?
Yeah, I was pointing at you to wave at you and
okay.
say hello on the screen.
I didn't know what you were doing.
The intro and you gave me nothing.
Yeah, so I didn't know what you were doing. I was very
jackass.
confused. Yeah,
No,
sorry, my bad.
I'm excited for the lead question here because I listened to Kyle answer this last week. And I've known Kyle for a long time. We've had a lot of very in-depth conversations about a lot of things in life.
This is going. Okay.
No, and we've covered your Eagle Scout prowess. But little did I know that you have the archery badge and that you're some type of Robin Hood caliber archer.
No, I didn't say I was a Robin Hood caliber archer. I just said I have the archery merit badge, and that's something that is a Olympic event, and I would not do a team sport because I couldn't play on a team sport. I'm not talented enough to play on a team sport.
The fact that you could be handed a bow and arrow and be able to hold your own, like Deshaun Watson. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I'd know what to do if I was handed a bow and arrow.
You point it in the direction you want to shoot it, you pull the string back, and you let it go.
All right, so the question is, what summer event would I participate in?
No. What summer Olympic event would you have the best chance to medal in?
Oh, so like if I dedicated my life to preparing myself to do this?
No, you had to start right now.
You have to start right now. What skills do you think you have?
It's never too late to start.
What skills do you have in the toolbox that can be combined to get you to medal in one sport that you think you could do well in?
It's not looking good here. I'm looking through the events.
That's what I did. Yeah, there's not a lot of options. That
I like the signs now. I don't know if you went to the same website I do, but there's like pictures of the event.
Mm-hmm.
That's been fun to look at.
Top hit when you Google Summer Olympic events. Yeah.
Well, trampoline looks fun. I'm not sure I could do the moves. I don't know, guys. I don't think I'm gonna have a real shot here.
Just
maybe
pick up a tree and let's move on.
Yeah, I don't think so. What's skeleton? This guy looks like he's looks like a bobsled. I have no idea. I have no idea what half this is. I don't
Chris,
know.
You have any football takes?
Just
do you have any football takes questions?
Maybe I could be a goalie on the soccer team.
Chris, I have a tattle take for you.
Oh,
to start us off, and then we'll get Halil's real football talk for the linebacker course for the Packers. You told us 1 week ago today that we would know by Tuesday if you were coming to Miami.
Yes.
And that didn't happen. So I just want to tattle take on Shoe Radio for telling me that we would know by Tuesday, and now it's the next Monday, and we still don't know if you're coming to Miami.
That's right. Let me just check on one thing real quick here. I'm opening up something on the other screen, and let me just check here real quick.
I agree with Ren. I would love to see Joe on the rings. You ever see Old School?
Come on,
Joe, you seen Old School?
One time in 1999 when it came out.
When Vince Vaughn's smoking the cigarette and he's pulling himself up by the rings, and it's like the whole gymnastics routine.
Oh, that's like an Olympic event. Yeah.
I'd love to see that.
Take from Oil's Real Football Talk. Says he's got a good one to start things off. The Packers linebacker core is actually worse than the Eagles'.
I'll tell you what. I don't think so. The Packers fans are very defensive of that group. Eagles fans have nothing good to say about their linebackers. Like I've had some Packers fans reach out to me and like, hey, I really appreciate your work, but you should know that they're really
nice
high on like Kamal Martin or in some other player that they have. And I'm like, okay, all right, well, I'll watch a little tape here and get familiar. Eagles fans won't defend their linebackers.
So, I mean, the room is Kamal Martin, Chris Barnes, Ty Summers, Oren Burks, drafted Isaiah McDuffie. Joe, one of your guys.
Yeah, he's fun.
Yeah. 6th round this year. So that's 5 of the 6 inside stack linebackers they have on the roster. I don't think that's the worst positional group in football. And again, you take into account what they have in the secondary. They'll play a ton of nickel. You need 2 on the field at the same time. I'm not super worried about. It's been a big philosophical shift over the last, 24 months for us?
Yes.
The Chargers have the number 1 offense in 2021.
I don't think that's a reasonable take. I don't. I like Justin Herbert. I like Keenan Allen. We've got questions at tight end.
Hold on.
We've got go ahead. 4 out of 5 new starters.
That's where I was going to go. You got Filer, Lindsley, Rayshon Slater, and is it
Oday Abushi?
Abushi, yeah. Yeah, they get a lot of moving parts. Mike Williams, big prove it year.
He's getting paid a lot under the 5th-year option. I think it's like
he was like perceived to be, I think, on the trade block last year, right? Because it's like the play has not been commensurative to the draft stock, and
always hurt.
Then they brought in Jared Cook, didn't they?
They did.
Okay, so you got somebody at tight end. It's not like you got a corpse out there.
I mean, is there enough depth here at the receiver? Jalen Guyton?
That's the big question. Like, you got to have Williams and Allen healthy for an entire season, right? Like, no questions asked. Free to the number 1 offensive football.
They're not better than Kansas City. They're not better than Green Bay, Buffalo. Baltimore scores a ton of points, and they do it different, but I don't know. Tampa. I mean, Brady took some time to get settled in there, right?
Right.
You think they're not going to hit the ground running this year? Dallas with a healthy deck. I mean, are the Chargers better than any of those offensively?
I think they have a chance to be. They play the Raiders twice. That helps.
Oh, boy. The Raiders are self-scouting. They're going to be fine, Kyle.
Has anybody saw Maurice Hurst yet? Because that was the big thing that prompted that whole statement from that angry Raiders fan.
I don't know.
I don't think
probably could help the Raiders, though.
Let's take from Braden. This year's group is the weakest group of weapons that Patrick Mahomes will have at his disposal.
So they lost Watkins.
Yep,
it's true.
And they're banking on Demarcus Robinson just stepping up into that void. Is that correct?
Well, in year 6, I think, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not like he's not been around. So.
Right, but I'm saying that it's not like they brought somebody else. It's literally just Demarcus Robinson is going to take Sammy Watkins' spot, which works out well considering Sammy's always banged up. So Robinson plays that spot half the time anyway.
And they don't have the running back depth that they've had in the past. So, good, Sam. Good point. Is Cornell Powell there? That's what team he plays for, the Chiefs.
Hold
on. Why am I blanking on that?
Yeah, but are we really?
You can't. A guy who's played 6 games.
Right. We're really going to put all our eggs in replacing Sammy Watkins and Cornell Powell, who had like 6 good games for Clemson as a redshirt senior or whatever. Like,
so yeah, I mean, minus Sammy Watkins, when it's everything's exactly the same as it always has, minus Sammy Watkins, okay, yeah, it's the worst group that he's ever had. He's still got a top 5 receiver.
What was the? Go ahead, finish.
So he's a top 5 receiver in Hill, top 2 receiver in Kelsey.
And what was the phrasing of the question?
It's the worst group of weapons that Mahomes has.
Weapons.
Had.
Okay, I was clarifying if it was weapons or supporting cast because I was going to turn around and flip this on his head and talk about the line, but it's just about weapons. So I think that's a fair observation. Sam had a banger of a take about Damien Harris, Chris.
Okay. I will get it in the queue here. No, we won't. This take from Vontel. The AFC will go another year with a 10-win team missing the playoffs. Sorry, Kyle.
Especially, did he do that to himself?
No, hold on. Let me really help him out here. Because that's what he wanted to do. He just turned his camera off. So let me really.
Well, I think with there being 17 games, right? Like it increases the likelihood, and I think the reality is there's a lot of reasonable teams in the AFC, right? Like you have Houston, and I think the Jets are definitely rebuilding, but for the most part, there's not like these cellar dweller type teams. There's a lot of very reasonable teams. So I think that is possible even with a 17 playoff field.
It is possible with a 17 playoff field. I can confirm that to be true.
I didn't know if Kyle was participating in this take or not with the camera off.
No, there's no participation here. I'm just saying it's possible.
Okay. This take from Sam. Damien Harris will rush for within 200 yards of Houston's total as a team.
Goodness gracious. You don't think they're going to want to run the ball, right? Like,
yeah, but are they going to be in a game situation that's going to allow you to run the ball?
Yeah, at the beginning when they're trying to keep it as close as possible for as long as possible.
And do you trust them to successfully run the ball in those situations?
No, but that doesn't mean they're not going to try. I've watched Tyrod Taylor play enough quarterback in my life to understand what's about to happen here.
They're banking on what, 17-14 every week?
17. Tyrod will never turn it over. He'll make a couple of plays every game for you. And if you run the ball effectively, which I don't know that they have the pieces to do, you have a chance to win it at the end by a score of 13-16 or something.
So let's contextualize this. The Pittsburgh Steelers finished last year in team rushing yards, and they had about 1,350 yards as a team.
Very bad.
How many running backs would qualify for that? So if you think Houston's going to stink at running the ball because they're not going to be a good team, they're not going to be competitive in games because their defense is not going to be good, their offense is going to be able to score a lot of points, they're going to have to pass the ball to try and stay competitive. This is more of a Damien Harris take, in my opinion, than it is a Houston Texans rushing offense take. And I'm high on Damien Harris this year. I think he's going to be very successful. I think he's going to take the lead back role there. And he's just going to be a super reliable player that gets the yardage plus an extra 3 yards on the vast majority of his runs because that's his style of running.
Would you say I like how you kind of focused this back here, and I think this leads to a better conversation. What's the floor for rushing yards for Houston next year? Is it 1,300? Like, is that as bad as they can be?
It's 84 yards a game.
Do you think what do you put the floor at? 1,200?
I think 13's close.
Okay, so
that's bad. It's low.
We can work with that. 1,300 rushing yards as a team. Now, let's not forget Tyrod Taylor runs the football. And a part of when the Bills had the number 1 rushing offense with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback wasn't necessarily because they were amazing running the football with LaShawn McCoy and whoever else was running backs. Tyrod contributes there, right? He's going to elevate the Houston Texans rushing totals. So I would say 1,300 is the absolute floor. Do we think that there will be enough volume of carries for a team that likes to spread it out for Damien Harris to reach 1,100 yards? If I'm not mistaken, there was only like 7 1,000-yard backs in the NFL last year.
Sam said there, I think there were 3.
There were 9 players who reached the 1,000-yard mark.
Okay.
So
but there were 3 players that were within Pittsburgh's total last year, I believe.
What
3 running backs
totals?
1,350. We're within 200.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor had 1,169. Aaron Jones had 1,104. Dalvin Cook had 1,557, and Derrick Henry had 2,000 yards.
I worry that the volume of carries is not going to be there.
Well,
Damien Harris.
If Sony Michel's off the roster, would you feel differently? Because I think there's a reason.
So, yeah.
What are you keeping Sony Michel for around?
He's redundant and he's injured. No, I'd get Stevenson going, and James White's still there. That's my concern is they just won't have the volume of carries. That's a great question. Whoever asked that it's a really good.
Sam
sparked a good conversation. I thought
it's a good one.
Let me find another one here for us.
Not sure we answered it, but we worked through it.
I'm buying. I'm in.
I'm selling.
Let's take from Tell. Tampa's offense will start slow while trying to figure out how to use OJ Howard and Gronk.
Hope so. As a dynasty owner of OJ Howard, I've been hanging on to him for a while. I'd love to see him do something. Do you think that's really going to hold up this offense with so much returning?
No. No, you're going to have everybody on the perimeter is going to be healthy. The entire starting offensive line is back. Tom's has another offseason throwing to his receivers in the system. They even brought back AB. Right. I think they're going to be fine. I mean, you might see them prompted to play OJ more on passing downs and kind of spell Gronk to try and keep him healthy throughout the entirety of the season. But is that really going to shut you down? I don't think so.
Well,
or bog you down.
Tell makes the point here in the comments saying it wasn't great with Howard when healthy. I don't know that was an indicator of Howard being this problem for the offense as much as it was early in the season. Tom Brady, under those circumstances in a new system, just getting his feet under him and getting the live reps under his belt.
He openly said that it took about until week 10 to kind of settle into the offense.
I don't think that was an OJ Howard thing.
I had one more. That 28 was it 2018 or 2017 tight end class? 2017 tight end class that had OJ, Ingram, and Njoku. What a weird trajectory for all those guys. They all felt like studs.
Yeah.
Didn't they?
Yeah, and I listened to the Best Player Available podcast. It's with Neil Stratton from Inside the League. Mm-hmm. And he did this long series on the 2017 draft, and he had all these different people that were in NFL front offices that built draft boards and scouted the class. And they went through and they spilled the beans on a lot of stuff. And what he asked every single person that he had on, and I think it went 10 deep of people that were part of that process, who were like the top 10 players on your board. You could not find one person that didn't have OJ Howard like in the top 5 as a tight end.
Yep.
The ability was there, man. Whether, there's other circumstances at play here, but from a skill perspective, I mean, that guy's unbelievable.
And there, lo and behold, there is a tight end out of this group that through 4 seasons has 3,500 yards, and it's George Kittle, who was drafted in the 5th round, 146 overall.
Yeah.
And Njoku's still on the Browns. There was a whole big to-do. They were going to trade him. He was mad they signed Austin Hooper. He was going to request a trade. Then he was back on the trade block at the deadline, and nothing ever came of it. So,
Did you see this this quote that just came out from Greg Olsen? This is really good. No. He said it on Pardon My Take. This is a quote from Greg Olsen. This is he said, "We have to do the same bleep that $15 million left tackle has to do and run routes against the same guy that a $15 million wide receiver has to run routes against, and they're going to pay us $7 million." Greg Olsen going to bat for the tight ends, which is such a fascinating conversation piece because we've talked about the value of having that elite playmaker at tight end and how that contrasts with having an elite playmaker at wide receiver. And there's a value game to play here. And Greg Olsen, I'm not going to say this quote alone is going to change the market, but hey, this is a hell of a lot of awareness right here that we've kind of been talking about for a while. And I wonder how this is going to shift. But at the same time, I mean, Kittle and Kelsey, they just signed their deals. Waller just signed his deal. You have Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, number 1 and number 2 all time in the history of the NFL in terms of guaranteed money for a tight end contract.
Waller's is still a steal, by the way. He's a free agent in 2024. He's getting less than $7.5 million per season. Annual average salary. He's getting paid less than Jimmy Graham, Zach Ertz, and Rob Gronkowski.
Yo, this tight end stuff's going to get weird.
Yes.
And they're all coming out of that tight end university just happened, right? So all these guys were together. Yep. I'm sure that they had a nice little conversation about it.
But the messaging is right because, Kelsey set the market reset the market by like 50% because who was it? Austin Hooper was number one at 10 and a half.
Yeah.
And then Kelsey signed for 14. And then Kittle signed like 2 days later for 15. Completely reset the tight end market. And now you have this big void where the only two guys that are in between that are the two guys that New England signed this offseason that both got 12 and a half per. So as these guys, the Dallas Goddards and the Mark Andrews and the Mike Gesicki's,
next wave
they're going to fill in that void. They're not going to surpass Kelsey and Kittle, but they're absolutely going to use the ammunition to say, look, we need to be filling this in because as Greg Olsen points out, the impact to both phases of the game that you can have as a tight end is greater than what you can have as a pass catcher at the wide receiver position. Like, period. You're a better value and you get paid like the number one tight end gets paid what the 15th highest paid wide receiver gets. It's a no-brainer. They're not all Kelsey and Kittle, man, and Waller, right? Those are unique players. But those guys that impact the game the way that they do in multiple phases, they got a case, man. They got a big-time case.
Let's take from Halil's Real Football Talk. Last year's winners of the AFC North and NFC South will finish last inside their respective divisions.
Ooh.
Pittsburgh and New Orleans. Atlanta, come on now. Atlanta and Carolina, we're sure. We're sure on New Orleans.
Cincinnati or Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I get Pittsburgh's offensive line is problematic, right? And it was problematic before they cut David DeCastro. It was already going to be a big question mark.
Right.
But the coaching dynamic for me, I can't trust Pittsburgh to finish worse than Cincinnati when their coaching is so much better and their defense is elite. And they have a bunch of good skill players. So I'm selling based on Pittsburgh.
But if you had to put a bet on one team, one division winner from last year to go from first to worst. Buffalo, Pittsburgh.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, did you? I
said Buffalo Bills. I was just kidding, though.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, the Jets are going to be a problem for that, but other than that, I live in great concern every day that the Bills are not going to be a legitimate team. Kansas City ain't doing it. The Washington football team.
I mean, it might just be Washington because of how tightly bunched that was, and if Fitz goes nuclear, then.
Shuby's loving Sam's take there at Seattle. Oh, Tennessee. Houston's in that division, bro. Rahul's just a Colts fan there.
So the question is, team that won their division last year to go to last?
Yeah.
Man, if Aaron Rodgers gets traded, sign me up for Green Bay as my selection.
Detroit's still there,
Would you rather Jared Goff or Jordan Love?
The Packers without Aaron Rodgers is still a 500 football club.
They should be, right? Yeah. I mean, it's not like it's going to blindside them. They've been operating without Aaron Rodgers all off season. It's not like they're going to show up week one and, oh my God, Aaron Rodgers isn't here. Whatever shall we do?
I mean, this was part of the whole reason why they drafted A.J. Dillon and presumably why they brought back Aaron Jones, right? And paid him, $12 million annual average salary because
it's kind of the plan.
Right. They're just going to run the ball.
Go get some assets for Aaron Rodgers after he was the friggin' MVP of the league.
Halil, you know what I mean.
It's a good point, though.
You know what I mean.
No, but it's a great point.
No, it's not because it's dumb to play 17 games.
Because there cannot be 500 teams this year.
Or did we disband ties, Chris?
You did on this show. You did.
I did. Ooh. But in reality,
Kyle with the strong reply there, Shuby, you know it. You know it. Wait, are you a 500 team if you go 9-9-1 or what, or 8-8-1? Is that a 500 team?
Yeah.
Because that's your win percentage, 500. Yeah, it's still possible.
Yes.
Lies have been told here, Halil.
Yeah, Halil, you lied. That's what you get for asking if I styled my hair with a dryer today. Get you back.
I'll tell you that for a fact, I did not use a hairdryer today.
Neither did I. This take from Ren I thought was interesting. When the NFL shifts to a more power running game, not a huge shift, but a few more teams jump on board, will the NFL go back to bigger linebackers or try to counter with tier 1 interior defensive linemen becoming a premium?
This is a good question.
I thought about this yesterday while I was, doing something. And you know how these things are cyclical, and eventually teams are going to go small and they're going to say, okay, well, we're going to make you deal with our power rushing attack with your small players. So my question is, I thought about basketball, and I have admittedly not kept up with the trends of basketball.
Okay,
however, I have watched some recently, and all they do is dribble down and shoot threes over and over and over again. It's like a different game altogether. Why have we not seen that transition happen in basketball where somebody finds this on the block, low post scoring machine with their back to the basket that forces you to play a style of basketball that you can't handle because you don't have the bigs to match up with them? Like,
because you got to play on both ends in basketball. So if you're a low post center and you got to go down to the other court of the play, other end of the court and play defense on a Euro style 7-footer who can shoot 3-pointers or pick up the ball on the dribble, it ain't going to work for you. So you would likely be just as much of a liability on the defensive side of the ball in basketball as what you are a unique unicorn on the offensive side of the ball.
And I had a basketball conversation with somebody, and they said to me, analytically, if you take 100 shots, which just to keep the math easy,
corner three, right?
If you take 100 shots and they're in 100, all 100 are 3-pointers, and you make 30% of them, as opposed to you make 50% of 2-pointers, you still score more points by making 30% of your threes.
Yes, and Luke just put the comment in there that I think is accurate. We watched a team the last round of the NBA playoffs do exactly what you wanted them to do, Joe. Rudy Gobert's not known for being an offensive threat, more the defensive player of the year this year, big time rim protector, rebounds the basketball. The Clippers, they went small, they spread them out. Rudy Gobert now has to defend the three. It looked like I could have scored on Rudy Gobert. That's how bad he was defensively.
I thought he was so he's a rim protector.
But good defensive player of the year. They spread him out wide,
force him out,
and he couldn't hang. So you can't do what you want to do, just go big, because so many teams spread you out, and then you're left holding the bag.
So you dictate the game more by the new style of basketball.
I mean, I think so. I mean, look, it's weird, right? Like, because the Milwaukee Bucks, who are still alive in the playoffs, they have Giannis, who's is a freak athlete, right? He can do everything. And on the other side, you have the Phoenix Suns, who are more of a traditional basketball team. They have 3-and-D guys. They have the under 8 who can play defense. They have Chris Paul and Devin Booker who can shoot mid-range games. I mean, so I get what you're saying, but there is that cyclical nature doesn't exist when there's just so much advantage to just being small.
Well, it's because you have to play both ends of the court. So let's bring this back to football and talk about defensively. You're only playing one side of the ball. You can either have a linebacker who's a run stuffer, or another linebacker who you're going to take a defensive back off the field for, or you are going to bring in presumably, 2-gap nose and have him play in the A-gaps. So I think even when you come back to power run game, are we necessarily going to get away from spacing the field?
No.
So that for me, I still want to keep the back end infrastructure, the back seven. I still want to have the flexibility to match personnel there. Now, if you're going to come out and face a team that runs a bunch of 12 and 13 personnel, then yeah, you're going to want to have heavy hitters to match up, and you're not going to be super concerned about, how are we going to match up with the receiving options while simultaneously stuffing the box? But if you're going to face a team that runs 11, but they run it with power run game, and they've got a tight end who's kind of a mismatch guy that can come down into the box, can be pseudo classified as a wide receiver, but also can be the sniffer or off the ball guy in the backfield as an H. I think I would want the defensive tackle in that scenario. But if you're going to face 12, 13 super heavy personnel, then I would want the linebacker.
I sort of felt like Miami last year with Chan Gailey. This is kind of what they wanted to be, right? With a lot of horizontal spread RPOs, and then
trying to replicate Alabama.
Why didn't it work? Not to go too far into a tangent, but like
their offensive line couldn't reset the line of scrimmage with any consistency.
So if they had the right 5 up front, do you think, and their guys were healthy enough, like not asking for perfect health because it is football, like it's not a bad idea.
Well, they also couldn't separate on one-on-ones and get separation. But I think about teams like Baltimore. You take a team like Baltimore, right? And they ran, they were willing to stretch you out, but they ran a ton of 21, 12, 13 in 2019 when Lamar was at his best, when they had Hurst, Boyle, and Andrews all on the field at the same time. What really allowed that offense to shine was that Andrews could go play out in the slot. Hurst could go play out in the slot. Boyle was the guy who could be in the backfield or on the line of scrimmage. And then you had the dynamics of Lamar himself and the run threat. So I think that's what makes Baltimore unique is they run downhill, but they also have 4-3 at quarterback that really puts you in a bind where you can't stuff the box, because if you stuff the box, the speed to the perimeter is going to get outside your end contain guy. So there's a lot of layers here. But Miami trying to replicate Alabama. They didn't have the athletes on the outside to really threaten anybody, so everybody just rolled the extra safety down, and it dictated that they were going to pass the ball in those RPOs because the box count wasn't in their favor to run the ball, and they didn't have anybody to win one-on-ones. Chris, one more?
You want me to get one more? I was just going to ask.
One more.
Let me scroll a little bit further up here.
I know Ren loves it when we talk about the Dolphins here, so we wanted to definitely make sure we check that box for him here.
Well, we got sidetracked into NBA talk, and the chat didn't necessarily like the sidebar there, so we'll get us back on track here. This one from Jalen I thought was interesting. Mike Zimmer's the first coach fired if Minnesota starts slow. He's been there forever, and they are underperforming.
Jalen, I want to agree with you. Who are the other contenders here, Joe?
And
we can't say
Zach Taylor.
Is Zach Taylor going to get fired, though, knowing the dynamics about that job?
No. Gruden's not getting fired.
Nope. Could McCarthy get fired?
I mean, how slow are you going to have to start if you're McCarthy in Dallas?
If that comes back and plays well, and they start the year 0-3, 0-4, what's their schedule? Did this on the show.
I don't think there's any way Culley gets fired.
No, yeah, not.
It's unfortunate, but he feels like they knew this was going to be like a really rough pill to swallow kind of year. And it was kind of just, let's get a filler kind of guy in there, like a Chip Kelly in San Francisco or whatever else.
Fangio?
I mean, Zimmer's not been terrible.
Right, and that's why I'm struggling. Like, I agree that Minnesota's been super frustrating and that they have continued to kind of hit the glass ceiling as a team. But what about Cliff? Because of the way they ended the season last year.
I'd be shocked.
Really? Okay.
I'd be shocked if they made a change in the middle of the season.
I mean, if they're like 1-6 or something like that.
That's just not their way of doing things.
So I think the bigger question for us before we decide on who it is what week does somebody get fired?
I've seen a lot of Matt Nagy. I'm not there yet. He's not the first.
I think McCarthy has a decent chance because the Joneses are going to want to be competitive, and you got a former head coach in Dan Quinn.
They could start the year 0-3.
Oh, my God. Handing it over to Dan Quinn?
They have the Bucs.
What are you going to give it to Kellen Moore or John Fossil?
Yeah, give it to Kellen Moore before I gave it to Dan Quinn.
That's a bad take, but okay.
The Bucs in week 1. The Chargers in week 2.
What team
Eagles
is this?
In week 3. The Cowboys schedule.
Oh, yeah.
They could start the year 0-3.
If they lose to the Eagles, it'll really push them. If they lose to the Eagles in week 3 to go to 0-3,
right? That's
pressure's right on then. Yeah.
I think it's Fangio. I do. I think it's Fangio.
Well, then you should have went out and got a quarterback.
That's not my team, not my problem.
I think we're done here, aren't we?
We're done.
Good time on the live stream. Mondays, Thursdays, 7:30, the YouTube channel, the Draft Network. You guys know it because you're here. But if you're watching this after the fact, just know 7:30 p.m. Mondays, Thursdays, chance to hang out with us All of our live streams brought to you by our friends at Mighty Swell. Kyle Krabs with Chris Schubert and Joe Marino. Thanks as always for checking out the Draft Dudes live stream.